20 Bible verses for a healthy mind. Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. What it teaches. Instead of letting unhealthy trends or negative influences shape our thoughts, the Bible calls us to be transformed. Renewing our minds can help us escape brain rot and focus on God's good plan. Ephesians 4:17-18. This I say therefore and testify in the Lord, that ye henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk in the vanity of their mind, having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God through the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness of their heart. What it teaches. This passage warns us against letting our thinking become useless or empty. By staying close to God, we can keep from falling into harmful thought patterns that leave us feeling hopeless. 2 Corinthians 10:5. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. What it teaches. Even if a bad or anxious idea shows up in our minds, we don't have to let it stay there. We can give it over to God, asking Him to help us think in ways that honor Him and lift us up. 2 Timothy 2:16-17. But shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness, and their word will eat as doth a canker, of whom is Hymenaeus and Philetus. What it teaches. Harmful or negative words can spread quickly, just like an infection. Keeping away from gossip, hateful speech, and pointless arguments protects us from toxic influences. This verse reminds us to be patient and trust God's timing. He sees everything and will make things right. 2 Timothy 4:3-4. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. What it teaches. Sometimes, people only want to hear what makes them feel good, rather than what's true. This can cause brain rot by feeding us half-truths or outright lies. We should stay rooted in God's Word to keep our minds sharp. Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. What it teaches. One of the best ways to prevent brain rot is to fill our minds with good things. Think about beauty, kindness, truth, and love. These positive thoughts can replace negativity and keep our minds healthy. 1 Peter 1:13. Wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. What it teaches. This verse encourages us to stay alert and ready. A healthy mind is disciplined and open to God's leading. Instead of letting discouragement or confusion take over, keep a clear focus on God's grace. Isaiah 26:3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. What it teaches. This verse reminds us that true peace doesn't come from our surroundings. It comes from where our minds are anchored. When we choose to fix our thoughts on God and trust Him fully, He surrounds us with perfect peace, even in the middle of life's storms. Colossians 3:2. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. What it teaches. God calls us to focus not on temporary pleasures or problems, but on eternal truth. Shifting our attention to heavenly things lifts our minds out of fear, anxiety, and distraction, helping us live with purpose and clarity. Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. What it teaches. Our thoughts and emotions guide everything we do, so we must guard them carefully. A healthy, protected mind leads to a life filled with direction, strength, and wisdom rooted in God. Matthew 22:37. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. What it teaches. Loving God means giving Him every part of ourselves, including our thoughts. A renewed and surrendered mind is an act of worship, and it draws us closer to Him in a deeper, more meaningful way. 1 Corinthians 2:16 For, who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. What it teaches. When we follow Jesus, we're not left to think like the world. We are given access to Christ's wisdom and perspective. This transforms how we respond to life, shaping our mindset with grace, humility, and purpose. Psalm 119:11. I have hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. What it teaches. Filling our hearts and minds with God's Word gives us strength to resist sin and stay grounded in truth. His Word becomes a constant reminder of who we are and how we should live. James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. What it teaches. We all face moments of confusion, doubt, and mental fog. This verse offers hope. God promises to give wisdom freely to anyone who asks. He wants our minds to be clear, confident, and guided by His truth. Psalm 1:2. But whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on His law day and night. What it teaches. We all face moments of confusion, doubt, and mental fog. This verse offers hope. God promises to give wisdom freely to anyone who asks. He wants our minds to be clear, confident, and guided by His truth. Titus 2:6. Similarly, encourage the young men to be self-controlled. What it teaches. God desires that we live with clear, intentional thinking. A sober mind is one that isn't clouded by impulse, emotion, or the world's influence. It's grounded in truth and guided by the Spirit. 1 Thessalonians 5:6. So then, let us not be like others who are asleep, but let us be awake and sober. What it teaches. This verse calls us to be spiritually awake and mentally alert. Instead of letting our minds drift through life, We're called to stay vigilant, wise, and aware of what God is doing in and around us. Proverbs 23:7. For he is the kind of person who is always thinking about the cost. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. What it teaches: your thoughts shape your identity. What you dwell on influences who you become. That's why it's so important to think thoughts rooted in truth, grace, and love, because they shape the person you're becoming. 2 Thessalonians 2:2, not to become easily unsettled or alarmed by the teaching allegedly from us, whether by a prophecy or by word of mouth or by letter, asserting that the day of the Lord has already come. What it teaches: in a world full of uncertainty and confusion, God invites us to stand firm. When our minds are anchored in His promises, we won't be easily shaken or overwhelmed by fear. Hebrews 12:2, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. What it teaches: fixing our eyes on Jesus strengthens our minds and refocuses our thoughts. He started the work in us, and He will finish it. When distractions and doubts try to take over, looking to Him brings clarity, peace, and perseverance.